Hello, Namaskar, welcome to my pod, the CAA Show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis. My name is Juggi Bhasin. To become a subscriber of the CAA Show, all you have to do is to press that red button on your screen. Subscription is, of course, completely free, and we would also really appreciate if you could like this video and share this video with your friends and your colleagues. Okay, right at the beginning, let me say that practically every person in the subcontinent, every person in both India and Pakistan know that India is ready to carry out a strike on Pakistan. And most people believe, we of course have no official confirmation of this, but most people believe that this time it could not only be a strike against the terrorists or the perpetrators of the Pahalgam attack, but there could be a strike against Pakistani defense forces, against their assets. That also is a perception which is gaining ground. And I have to clarify out here, there is no official confirmation of this, but this is a strong feeling which is running, as I said, in the subcontinent, in both India and Pakistan. So, an unambiguous realization, acceptance that India is preparing to strike. When, how, that is, of course, a matter of detail. So I thought in this podcast today, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to, without wasting any time, without talking about what has really happened, because a lot of that has already been discussed, I'm going to straight away come to the nub of the matter. And what really matters today is that what are India's steps going to be? I'm going to talk about what India's steps could be and what we should be doing, and also what we should not be doing. And I have to clarify again right in the beginning, I'm speaking here not as some official authority or even as a defense analyst, because I'm not a defense expert, but I'm really speaking as a layman. But as a layman, somebody who has had experience from my journalism days, from my when I was a television journalist, from the time when I used to cover the Kashmir insurgency for television, which is a long time back. And if you really ask me, not much really has changed since then. Also, as somebody who has covered the fall of the Babri Masjid, I was very much there. I've covered some very important the coverages. I have there, to my credit, I have those coverages. So in that capacity, also, I'm going to give you my uh, what I think the government should be doing at this point in time, the steps they should take and they should not take. So let's start without, without any preamble. Let's straight away dive into this very, very important issue. What are the next steps of the government or what they should be? Right in the beginning, I would say that the government now, it has already made a very strong announcement. The Prime Minister has made this announcement. He has spoken of his intent to punish Pakistan. He said it in English. We all know about that deliberately, so that the message goes out loud and clear, which it has all over the world. And the world readers have also responded very positively to the Prime Minister. But now, from this point onwards to the point where we carry out that strike, a fog of war should descend now on all uh, announcements or all the policies. There should be no leaks. There should be no giving away of vital information. Everybody from the government side, especially from the defense forces, should not just keep quiet about this and wait for the government to carry out the strike. This is very important. And why is this important? I'll explain this very quickly. It's important. You create this what is called a fog of war, because then you make a situation almost uncertain, unpredictable, unknown for the enemy. Keep the enemy guessing, keep the enemy on tenterhooks, which is the enemy, of course, being Pakistan here. Keep the enemy tense. Let them practically wake up every day and sleep at night, not knowing when the attack is going to happen, when is it coming. So this fog of war, shrouding of the fog of war, overall policy making decision has to be deliberately carried out so that it confuses the enemy, which is Pakistan. That's step number one. Number two, and which is, I think, one of the most vital steps which I think the government should take. Even as we are preparing our offensive capabilities, testing our offensive capabilities, because right now there's an operation Akraman, which is going on where the Indian Air Force, the top line fighters of the Indian Air Force, that is the Rafales, the Su-30s, they are carrying out deep penetration mock exercises, which might just turn into the real thing also. As we step up our offensive capabilities, I think even more attention should be paid to our defensive capabilities. It should be paid to the fact that do we have enough air cover, because Pakistan will respond. They could also respond with missile attacks. They have that capability. They could respond with all kinds of incursions. So, are we fully prepared? Do we have jamming equipment in place? Do we know how to knock out their radars? Are our air defense covers, both military and civilian, are they in place? That is a very important preparation. That's, in fact, I think the number one preparation which the government should be exercised, which I'm sure they are doing. But as I said, I'm giving my recommendation. This should be the endeavor of the government. And in that capacity, I want to again make a plea, almost a fervent plea, that for God's sake, take the help of Israel in this matter. See, we of course have excellent relations with Israel. And the Israelis, as we all know, and if you did not know, then you should know, are the foremost authorities in a lot of these, both tactical and strategic warfare, aerial, on the land, on all manners of things. But they have something which right now would be of great interest to India. They have a system called the Iron Dome. And therefore, I am recommending that the government should actually, the prime minister probably should pick up the phone and speak to Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, and ask for a loan of the Iron Dome system for India, at least for the next few months. See, Israel, of course, also faces a lot of threats, but if that can happen, a lot of the worry will be taken off in terms of air defense. We also have air defense capabilities. I'm not too sure if we have the kind of an advanced system like the Iron Dome, but that is absolutely needed. The other air defense system, a very advanced system from Russia, has still not in place because the deliveries have not been made because of the Russia-Ukraine war. And therefore, I'm recommending that the government should actually keep its lines open. And by the way, even as I speak today, there has been some chat or there has been some news on Twitter, which of course can't be relied upon. There's nothing authentic. We don't know if it's authentic, that some planes have landed from the United States and from Israel, big planes. What are they carrying? We don't know. Maybe the government has already started thinking on the lines which I am recommending. But keep your air cover defenses in top gear. And if necessary, take the help of Israel. Ask them for a loan of the Iron Dome to ward off any missile or aerial attacks or air attacks. That is, all said and done, a great system. So that's recommendation number two. Then I come to recommendation number three. In all probability, once we carry out the strike, and a strike will be carried out, and this time, of course, and the government, I think, has learned its lesson from Balakot, where the strike was enormously successful, but it was not properly videotaped or not properly photographed. There should have been that should have been done. But so this time, hopefully, whenever the strike is carried out, the visual proofing of that strike will be there for everyone to see, the whole world to see, and of course, people in India and in the Pakistanis will see that. So that is important. But there's bound to be retaliatory a strike back from Pakistan, which means there will be a step up in the escalation ladder. And this is the most important recommendation, which I am saying, that do not blink, do not just, as some people will recommend at that time, 100%, they will say, oh, turn to the Americans to, sue for a peace right now, or stop this thing that you have done your bit, whatever, now withdraw and let things go back to normal. No. Step by step, ratchet up the escalation ladder, because I'll tell you the reasoning for that. The reasoning for that is very simple. When you I'll give the example of a handgun. A handgun, and there are various hundreds of kinds of various handguns, but the handgun at the end of the day has a magazine which has bullets in it. And whether the bullets in the old days, they used to be this Colt, which used to have a limited number of seven, eight bullets or whatever. Today, a Glock, for instance, has many more, many, many more. But at the end of the day, all magazines will be, expended, or the bullets will be finished after you have fired, and the magazine empties out. Similar is the case with Pakistan. Pakistan has only a finite capacity. They certainly do have advanced system. I'm not even disputing that, but they have a finite. They don't have an infinite capacity. Whereas in contrast, we have I wouldn't say an infinite capacity, but we have a much, much larger capacity to sustain missile attacks, artillery attacks, attacks by fighter jets. We have a much, much broader, far more bigger capacity than Pakistan. Let Pakistan exhaust it. There will be damage on both sides, but if we don't lose our nerve, we hold a nerve, if we don't kind of make these moves to sue for peace, or that, okay, we have done one strike more than enough, now live it. No, you cannot do that. You have to empty out, like the gun, you empty out a magazine of its bullets, you have to empty out Pakistan. That's my recommendation number three. And along with that, the very important thing you need to do is not only now you have a substantial world opinion with you, but this world opinion, by the way, is fickle. It can change anytime. But what is more important right now, of course, as I said, right now, Russia, since it is engaged in the Ukraine war, right now, we do need to look and, keep the Americans and the Israelis, abreast of what we are doing. They might be the two most important partners right now. But I'm recommending a very other important recommendation being that this is the time for us that maybe even the foreign minister makes a dash to Kabul, restores diplomatic relations with the Taliban government in Afghanistan, promises a help, maybe $50 million, 75 or even $100 million or whatever, and restores diplomatic relations with Afghanistan, which means that the time has come to squeeze Pakistan from both ends. Afghanistan, we all know what is going on between Pakistan and Afghanistan. The time has come now that we have to leverage this. There is no point now in hiding behind politically correct things. Oh, they are doing this to the women in Afghanistan and all that. Those are important issues, but they can wait. But right now, you need to carry the Taliban, the Afghanistan, because at the end of the day, the ordinary Afghani, even today, has fond memories of India. The number of Afghan people who come for medical treatment, for instance, in the major cities, in the major capitals. I, for instance, have seen when I go to the Max Hospital in Saket in Delhi. There are so many Afghanis even today. So there are all kinds of relationships. We have an old relationship all over with the Afghanis. And yes, there has been a lot of tension between Afghanistan and India in the past, but things are much better today. And now, right now is the time to leverage that. Also important to take Iran into confidence. That again is important because the relationship between Pakistan and Iran is also not great at the moment. So take Iran into confidence. And then I'm going to recommend something else, which might sound outrageous to a lot of people, but we need to take an initiative with China also at this point in time. See, the Indus Valley Treaty, and a lot of has been said about it, and I don't have to repeat all that. And I'm sure we are determined now to block these waters. The process is going to start. Of course, it's going to take time. But there is, of course, this fear that China, being an upper riparian state, can also do the same to us. But that is not the only reason we should be talking to China. We should be talking to China right now also, not in terms of the way we talk to, let's say, our friends like US and Israel, but we need to have an engagement, a positive engagement with China, because China is also under pressure right now. And they also know they are under tremendous pressure on trade matters, on economic matters, and they're certainly looking for the Indian market. So I'm not saying you open the floodgates for China, but I'm saying in measure this thing, open up a little bit, give them, as they say, it's a give and take relationship. You give them a little, you give them more access in certain sectors where you can afford to give them access. In return, you take ironclad guarantees for them that they will, we just want them not to interfere when a conflict is breaking out between India and Pakistan. And that I think should be done. This entire thing of that, we're going to fight China at the same time, Pakistan at the same time, and the internal enemy, the so called two and a half front, this is all rubbish. You take on one person, one enemy at a time, and therefore keep engaging. I'm using the word deliberately engaging. I'm not talking of friendliness or anything, but engaging with China. Let China adopt a genuinely neutral position in this, and then you wait and see the results which will come in. So that is the international perspective. Then uh, you need to do. Then, as I said before, I just alluded to one more thing. Keep your nerve. See, because right now, yes, expressions of support have come in from practically all the Western democracies. They've even come in from Saudi Arabia. They've even come in from, even I think the Chinese have engaged on this matter with you. Great. But please remember what happened a little bit, maybe even 2 or 3 weeks later after October 7th in Israel. The whole world, was shocked what happened when Hamas did that with Israel. When they carried out all those attacks in Israel. And within a matter of weeks, when Israel responded and they carried the war literally into their enemy's territory, and the world opinion changed. The world opinion completely went against Israel. And only, I think, good friends like India or some other, the US was prevaricating, I think, all the time. They stood by Israel. That also could happen in this case if there is a prolonged conflict with Pakistan. So we have to be prepared for that. And on that matter, the other important step we need to do vis-a-vis Israel is because I'm saying Israel again and again because there is significant help we can take from them, both in technological, in military matters, in a lot of operations also which are going to be launched. We need to I would say, I think it's an irritant. I'm not too sure about it, but I'm certainly sure that there's a bit of an irritant in Indo Israeli ties, and that is the issue of Hamas. Now it is very, very clear that Hamas leaders were in Pakistan, in POK. They were also in Bangladesh. They probably might have played a huge role in guiding these terrorists in carrying out the attack because this was a Hamas style attack which was done in Pahalgam. And therefore, without wasting any time, we need to declare Hamas as a terrorist entity because this is a demand which the Israelis have been making on us for quite some time. And for some strange reason, I don't know what is the issue. We haven't acceded or we haven't accepted this demand. We should do that immediately, I would say, and send a positive signal to Israel. And also at the same time, secure our own, because right now, whether you like it or not, the Hamas, the terrorists in Pakistan, the Punjabi terrorists, Pakistani Punjabi terrorists, they're all on the same page right now. They are actually literally standing on the same platforms. The visuals are coming in. You can see it for yourself if you don't believe me. Yes, we have supported the Palestinians for some of their just rights or whatever in the past, and we will probably continue to do that. That's not the point. But the point is, we can't support a terrorist entity like Hamas, and that signal has to be sent loud and clear. And that is, again, something we should be doing very, very quickly. Now, the pressure is not only going to come if the world opinion changes, let's say, after the conflict carries on, because in all probability, even who knows? The US might also change its stand. We don't know. Let's see. There was a policy think tank today, a US policy maker who said that the US could change its, but we don't know. We will wait and see what happens once the conflict starts. But certainly, a lot of other Western democracies could change their stance and say, no, India is enough, then you need to let off. We can't do that, as I'm saying. But the pressure is the real pressure that's going to come on the government is going to come from internally. It's going to come from the opposition. is going to come from a lot of what I call fifth columnists in this country that are both in the media and in the policy sphere. These people have been advocating, and these are not only those what we rhetorically or when we laugh about the whole thing, the Aman ki Asha kind of people. These are actually a lot of these are very serious people who have been in top levels in the bureaucracy, people who have been very senior editors in media outlets, people who are important and significant opinion makers, and there's no point in taking names because we all know about these people. They are going to mount a lot of pressure. There's going to be a lot of pressure that the government should backtrack from all this. Already, I believe a top lawyer has already said that how can the government do something like this? They have to take parliament into confidence. They have to first get a consensus from parliament, which really means that there are people have already started thinking in terms of how to stall the efforts of the government to deliver justice. So that pressure is going to come internally, and we have to be very, very careful. And at the same time, we have to keep engaging with our judiciary. In hindsight, now it appears that maybe the pressure from the judiciary earlier to hold elections in Kashmir might or might not have been the most wise thing to do. Probably, if there had been president rules today, maybe the law enforcement would have been better. Again, it's a debatable question, but these are things we can talk about later. But right now, we have to keep the judiciary informed. We have to keep them engaged and have to tell them that we cannot afford to take any soft steps right now, because when you are literally at war with the enemy, you're not only at war with the enemy on the external front, you're also at war with the enemy internally. There are a lot of people who can do damage inside the country also. So they have to be kept in check. So that, and the only way is you keep engaging with the judiciary. And that's very important. Now, these are some of the recommendations which I gave, but there is one very strong recommendation which I would say that we should not be doing. And I am seeing a lot of chatter. I'm seeing a lot of people on social media. They have been saying, oh, now it's a time to cripple the economy of Kashmir. They should be taught a lesson, the Kashmiri Muslims and all that. I'm not talking of the Hindu Muslim issue. That is not the point. I'm talking of a very simple thing. That would be the most stupid thing we can do if we can start, degrading Kashmir to teach the Kashmiri Muslims a lesson or whatever because of this attack, which is stupid to my mind. Why? Because any other day, don't forget, Kashmir is a integral part of India. And therefore, if it is an integral part of India, can we ignore Kashmir? We can't. We can't let the economy of Kashmir go to the dogs. We cannot. In fact, I would say as soon as some of these conflicts resolutions are done, then immediately the need of the hour is that we should restore and encourage tourism back again in the valley. It should come back, because right now, hopefully, when it comes back, your security infrastructure would be in place. The risk would be minimized. So that should be done. So don't go after Kashmir. Don't go after the Kashmiri Muslims. I think we have won over most of them on our side. There are certainly a certain percentage of them which are still aligned with the terrorist thinking with Pakistan. We know that, but that it's work in progress. Majority of the people want good living, a better living standards for them, and therefore don't let tourism collapse in Kashmir. I would strongly argue for that. Now, these are some of my point resolutions, but towards the end of the podcast, I'm going to come to what is, I think, the most significant part of what we should be doing. And that my recommendation is that we should completely change the mental thinking when it comes to dealing with problems like from Pakistan, maybe even from China and from Bangladesh. We have to do a complete mind shift. We have to stop being, and we have been, let's admit to that, a soft state for a very long time. We have to stop being a soft state and we have to become a realistic state. I'm not saying you become a hard state or you become some kind of a state which is looking to wage war at every time. That's not the point which I'm making. But you have to become a pragmatic, realistic state which knows exactly what it wants, which knows how to reach there. And I'm again citing the example of Israel. Look at Israel. After October 7th, the whole sympathy of the world was with Israel. And within a matter of weeks, the sympathy was gone. The whole world literally turned against Israel. And yet, they continued on their path. Their will was obdurate. And that is the same will we read right now. We need to take out the soft state mentality which we have, and that mentality being because once we did Balakot, then we all sat on our oars and our boat was gliding on its own. Nobody was steering the boat to its destination. Security, internal security is the key, and it is a continuous process. It is not a one flash bang, you know, event which you do and everybody say, wow, great, wonderful, we have taken revenge. No, it is you take revenge every day, 24 into 7, because what you are facing right now is a existential crisis. Pakistan, even if they are reduced to eating grass, I promise you, they will still, if they are left with sticks or stones or knives, they will still attack you with that. That's the mental, that is the upbringing of a country like Pakistan. And therefore, when you know that, you cannot let it be. You cannot let it go. You have to be on alert all the time. And what do I mean by that? In practical terms, it means that yes, we have a lot of defense budget, but the defense budget definitely needs to be increased. And all the money we put into attack submarines, into nuclear submarines, and this is all good, wonderful. But you need to now raise the budget of your internal security. That is absolutely significant. You need to bring in a lot of automation. You need to bring in a lot of drones. You need to bring in a lot of electronic surveillance. You need to start using air power when you interdict terrorists who have come inside the country. I used to cover insurgency in Kashmir a long time back when insurgency was really bad in Kashmir. I'm talking of the late 80s. And today, when I look at the visuals which are coming on television, and it is depressing because it still seems to be very much the same thing. The same thing, an attack has happened somewhere, and then you will show our 1 ton trucks and our army jeeps going and soldiers with their AK-47 running. It's like headless chickens. We still do that. We don't need to do all that. We don't need to put our officers on the line. We need a lot of advanced weaponry, a lot of counter surveillance equipment, top of the line equipment. And we need absolutely the best of drones. We need small drones. We can track down these terrorists. We need, we have something like all these robotic dogs and all that, which can literally, these are automated soldiers. We need armies of these, which will chase these terrorists, minimize the risk to your people, and make it so fearful for them that they would think 100 of times before they even ingress in our territory. But for that, you need a budget. And therefore, I'm saying your budget for internal security has to go up exponentially. There is no other way. That's the only way. And employ as much of automation. By all means, ground operations are important and everything. But why are we risking lives of our officers, of our soldiers, where a lot of automation can take care of all that? That is the need of the hour. For instance, the Russia-Ukraine war. It has now been reduced to a drone warfare. That is the future of warfare. Take all these things into account. Smaller drones, which can cut through the foliage, through the undergrowth, which can cut through the wooded hills and go and with pinpointed accuracy take on and take out these terrorists. That's the need of the hour. And therefore, all this requires what I call a change of mind, a change of a mental attitude. This thinking of that we are a soft state. Oh, no, no, we have done it once. Now let's say, okay, Pakistan will come. Pakistan is not going to come to its senses. I promise you. And by the way, if you have noticed, the difference between the Pakistani and the Chinese aggression is very, very different. The Pakistanis will stoop to any level. They used to send these bad teams, and there have been instances in the past when so many BSF and other soldiers have been beheaded. They will stoop to any level. हिंदी में जैसे कहते हैं वो बिल्कुल गिर जाते हैं, गिरे हुए हरकतें करते हैं, दे विल डू इट, दे विल कंटिन्यू टू डू दैट. The Chinese will ingress, but they will do it in a different way, as we have seen in Galwan and all that. So, therefore, the problem, the internal security problem, is still very, very high vis-a-vis Pakistan. And please remember, the other problem on the other side, that is on the eastern side, that is on Bangladesh. They are also learning from their Pakistani mentors. They will sooner rather than later resort to all this, because please remember, we have to pick up warning signs. It's not as if Pahalgam happened today. There were warning signs which were there for the last 3 or 4 months, actually more, if you ask me, when all these attacks were taking place in Jammu. These teams of 2 or 3 terrorists sneaking in and then wreaking havoc. And then they have these M4 rifles. They have these American carbines. A lot of them smuggled out of Afghanistan when the Americans left them. A lot of those are being used with the infrared vision, and they can pick out targets miles away. So you are up against a pretty dreaded kind of a terrorist, armed to the teeth. And and you need something more superior, therefore. The old ways of, scrambling our troops with their AK-47 running after them, for God's sake, grow up. We need to be more advanced in our internal security matters. There's a need of completely, as I say, uh, turning this entire thing upside down with more sophisticated weaponry. See, the Israelis, for instance, again, I am giving the example of the Israelis. They do it with a lot of guts and gumption, but they also do their stuff, whatever they do, with a lot of advanced weaponry. And that is what we need. So the budgets have to go up for internal security. That's the need of the hour. And only once this stain, I call it a stain, this opprobrium of a soft state is removed from India, from the personality of India, only then will Pakistan, only then will Bangladesh, only then will China. All these countries will take you very, very seriously. And at given times, even sometimes the relations with Nepal, with Sri Lanka is yo-yo. It goes this way or that way at times. But all your neighbors will take you seriously when you stop being a soft state. And remember, place yourself, put yourself in the shoes of Israel. They are surrounded by enemies on all sides, and so is India. You're also surrounded by enemies. Make no mistake about that. Once you are clear about that, only then we will for once and all get rid of these inhibitions which we have imposed upon ourselves. We have great things going for us. We have all the right tools. It's just a mental state, a state of being, I call it. That state of being has to change today. And Pahalgam probably is the turning point where that state of being will be changed. There is no other alternative left. If we have to survive as a country, it's an existential crisis, I would say. We have to change that mental state of being. We have to emerge into a different kind of state altogether. And so, on this note, I've come to the end of this particular podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And once again, you want to become a subscriber, all you have to do is press that red button on your screen. Subscription is, of course, completely free. And it's goodbye and cheers till next time.